Deathless Titans placed upon the face of the earth 3 generations of men, the first of them being men of gold. Becoming too close to gods themselves, Cronus ended their time on earth with an eternal sleep. A second generation came to be, the men of silver. Unwilling to serve the Titans and make sacrifices upon the holy altars, as all men shall do, they were condemned to dwell under the earth for all eternity. Finally, a third generation, the men of bronze, a brazen race, sprung from the ash tree. Terrible and strong are they. Join me as I tell you the tales of the men of bronze. This is Dragon's Blood, Odyssey to Dionysodoros, Episode 15. After everyone, including the horses, were safely on the dock, Ahinabad found Gamden and the rest of the party. "Where are you off to now?" asked Ahinabad. He had changed the color of the turban he wore to green, so that he would fit in with the local merchants. "With all those supplies, you must be going to the end of the earth." "No, nothing like that at all. Just visiting friends," answered Gamden. "Yes, of course. Visiting friends," said Ahinabad through a smile. "We'll leave it at that." Changing the subject quickly, Gamden asked, "How much for bringing us to Dionysodoros?" "You owe me nothing," said Ahinabad with a wave of his hand. "A priest of Athena is always welcome to travel on my ship wherever he wishes." "That is very generous of you," answered Akim with a shallow bow. "Maybe when you get back from visiting your friends, you will sail with me again." "After that crossing, I think I'll walk back home," Gamden said with a smile. "Every time I set foot on a ship, a storm or something else comes along that wants me dead." "You always seem to make it out alive, though," joked Sunisret. "You always come walking back into my life when I least expect it." "The best gifts," interjected Minkari, "are always appreciated most when they come unexpectedly." "And I am such a great gift," said Gamden through a grin. When everyone finished laughing, Sunisret asked, "Ahinabad, where is Orothea? We best be going soon. Get her to the Penthesilea convent, and then something into my belly. I'm starving." "Actually, Orothea has decided to stay with me." Ahinabad pointed up to the bow of the ship, where she stood surrounded by women from the local shops who were fussing over her hair and clothes. She looked directly at Sunisret and mouthed the words, "Thank you," while holding her hands over her heart. "When you see her next time, she will be my bride." Everyone shouted their congratulations to Ahinabad, and when the last of the handshakes were over, the party mounted their horses. "Wait, where is Capri?" asked Gamden with concern. As he looked around, from behind them came a loud meow, and he came running at full speed and leapt up into Gamden's lap with a fish in his mouth. "Hey, you!" the local merchant shouted at Gamden. "Your cat just stole that fish right off my cart." "Sorry about that," said Gamden through a laugh. "My cat is just like my friend here." As he pointed to Sunisret, he continued, "They both think with their stomachs. I hope this will cover the cost." Gamden tossed him a silver coin. "Are you kidding me?" the merchant said with disdain. "That fish is worth twice as much." Gamden knew that was an outrageous lie and said, "Sunisret, why don't you explain to the nice man that a silver coin will do just fine?" Sunisret walked across the lane, towered over the merchant, and said in a menacing voice, "My friend is being very generous in giving you a silver piece. Take it and be happy." The merchant cowered and said in a feeble voice, Yes, I'm very happy. Thank you. Then ran back to his cart. Minkari said, We better get going. We've been here less than an hour, and already an altercation. The sooner we get out of this city, the better. I agree, interjected Akam. But first we need to stop at Penethsila Convent and get the blessing of the Sacred Mother. All that travel into the Eastern Wildlands will require it, or ill fortune will beset us. Everyone in the group agreed that it would be best to do so and started off to the convent. In the distance, they could see where they needed to go. The convent was the original fortress of the city. Many generations ago, the first Sacred Mother and sisters took over the citadel and turned it into a sanctuary of peace. Dionysodoros has been razed and rebuilt many times, but always the convent stood. Armed guards patrolled the city continuously, watching for radical Eastern wildmen, attacking without warning and killing innocent people, then disappearing into the crowded streets. King Syraxus ruled with an idea of retaking the old Eastern realms through diplomacy, but also with an understanding that force will be needed too. When the city was last retaken from the wildmen, the king knew that he couldn't rein in all the Eastern peoples. Instead of persecution, he chose assimilation of the Eastern cultures. For the most part, the king's subjects and the Eastern people lived together in peace. The Eastern royal families beyond Azurda ally themselves with the Cyclops, arm and feed his soldiers while keeping his coffers overflowing with gold. In return, the Cyclops gets to stay in Azurda as long as he maintains a constant state of siege on Dionysodoros. Conversely, the three western kingdoms fund the majority of King Syraxus' efforts in Dionysodoros. The party made their way through the streets towards the convent. Most of the buildings were still leveled, but new structures were being built. Heaps of rubble made the roads clogged and slow-moving. The rubble that wasn't being taken away was used for new houses and businesses. The massive rebuilding projects in the city meant that the king was ready to spread his wealth around. When the people and tradesmen were busy working, everyone was happy, and King Syraxus was more popular than ever before. "How old is this city?" asked Gamden. Minkari answered him with, "Dionysodoros is the first attempt of the Western peoples to conquer the Eastern plains. Only scattered settlements were found, and little resistance was offered from the people. When the Western armies made it to Azurda, stiff resistance was coming from the Eastern royal families, and the decision was made to build the fortress." "That really doesn't answer my question, though," said Gamden through a laugh. "Sorry. I tend to ramble, then go way off subject." After his apology, Minkari continued, "The ancient scrolls at Amunet Monastery tell of 100 generations of men that have lived, fought, and died in Dionysodoros. The city has fallen 3 times to the Eastern Wildmen, and every time we retake it, the people have to live in a constant state of siege. May Athena grant us all peace and health," said Akum, with his palms to the sky. All the while, his horse slowly made the way down the street. "Peace and health," repeated Minkari, then continued, "But I have seen plans for something that will allow us to hold the city and maybe even take back Azurda from the Cyclops monarch." After a short pause, Gamden couldn't handle the weight any longer and shouted, "Well, what is it then? Don't keep us in suspense." Minkari looked at him with a sly grin and said, "Ballistics." The conversation turned a little too in-depth for Sunisret, and his head was spinning from all the terms he had never heard before. Sunnisret stopped dead in his tracks, shook his head, and said in a frustrated voice, "I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Say it in words I can understand." "Sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to do that," Gamden said to Sunnisret. Then he thought about how he could explain it to him so that he could understand. "Ah, I know. Hold on a moment." He rummaged through his saddle pack and took out the grenade they had found at Kefu's mansion. "Remember how I said this was full of explosives?" Yeah, I remember that," nodded Sunnisret. "Boom." "That's right," continued Gamden. "Right now, it will only go as far as I can throw it. But with ballistics, it can go as far as the other side of the city." Sunnisret turned away and squinted off into the distance, then turned back and said, "I can barely see that far away. But we wouldn't need it. I think I could still throw it that far." Everyone laughed and continued down the street to the convent. Even off in the distance, the convent could be seen. Its tall stone walls towered over the surrounding buildings. Throughout the years that the old fort has stood, no army has tried to occupy it. The Sacred Sisters providing healing and food to those who needed it, whether friend or foe. When they finally reached their destination, the main gates were wide open, and there wasn't a soldier in sight. The inner courtyard was immaculate. The trees were in full bloom, and the scent of freshly trimmed hedges filled their nostrils. Everyone who entered the convent immediately felt at peace. As the party made their way up the stairs to the inner sanctum, one of the sisters came out in her turquoise robes and greeted them. "Hello, weary travelers. I see that you bear arms. Are your intentions virtuous or villainous?" Akam stepped forward and returned the greeting. "Sacred Sister, my name is Akam, priest of Athena. These are my traveling companions. We are going into the Eastern Wildlands. We seek the Sacred Mother's blessing for safe travels." "A priest of Athena!" the sister exclaimed. "We are truly blessed to have you in our home, and welcome to you and your friends as well." "Is Bellet available to see visitors?" "No, Master Akam," replied the sister. "She is asleep in her quarters. She was up all night tending to the sick that came in last night. Terrible sickness in the city. Maybe when we come back through Dionysodoros, we will stop in again." "We look forward to it," said the sister with a smile. "Now, come with me, and I will take you to the Sacred Mother." With a flutter of her turquoise robes, she spun around and led the way. "What will we do with the horses?" asked Gamden. "The grass is green and deep," answered Menkari. "They will graze until we get back. Besides, Merritt will keep an eye on them. Won't you, girl?" He gave her a pat on the nose, and the horses walked off into the grass to enjoy their feast. The inside of the old fortress starkly contrasted to the outside. The outer walls were plain stone, but the inside was painted in white and turquoise. The floors had ornate tilework, and frescoes decorated many hallways. They finally came into the hall where the Sacred Mother was relaxing on the old king's throne. She presented an odd sight to behold. A shriveled old woman sitting in a giant chair, feet dangling in the air. Gamden was the last of the party to enter, and as he did, the Sacred Mother shrieked in pain. Several sisters came running to her side. "What is the matter?" they asked. "The light. It hurts my eyes. It burns my eyes. And there is a fire in my mind." She seemed to shrink even further back into the chair. "Sacred Mother, you are blind. You have been for many years," the sister asked. "How can you see now?" I only see him, she croaked, and pointed directly at Gamden. He has an aura of blinding white light. Do you want him to leave, Sacred Mother? No, no. He doesn't have to leave. The light is becoming more bearable. Come to me. I want to see you up close. The Sacred Mother gestured for Gamden to come closer. Gamden was reluctant at first, but relented and slowly made his way to the throne chair. Sacred Mother stood up and straightened her turquoise robes, then removed her headdress. Doing so revealed a wrinkled face, like the trunk of a tree, and eyes that were completely clouded over with cataracts. Come closer, young one. Gamden resisted the urge to come closer, but the Sacred Mother gestured to him, and he found himself walking toward her. When he was literally nose to nose with the Sacred Mother, she took his head in her hands, turned his head this way and that, then looked into his eyes. Not finding what she wanted, the Sacred Mother held the head of his head back with one hand and placed the palm of the other against his forehead and closed her eyes. A look of total concentration came across her face, which then turned to a grimace of pain. When the pain became unbearable, the Sacred Mother released her grip on Gamden and fell back into her chair. Gamden stumbled for a moment, then regained his balance. What just happened? Asked Gamden. I remember looking into her eyes. Then she was in the chair. Mankari walked up to his side and said, The Sacred Mother looked into your mind. Into your mind, he emphasized by tapping the temple of his own forehead. Whatever she saw was too much for her to take all at once. She is a powerful seer. Whatever is going on in that head of yours stopped her dead in her tracks. But I don't even know what I did, stammered Gamden. Silence, commanded the Sacred Mother. I'm tired, and my head hurts. I must lay down. Whispered voices from the sisters erupted. Sacred Mother hasn't spoken in weeks. Sacred Mother stood up. Sacred Mother sees again. No, Sacred Mother can't see again, she said of herself to the sisters in a mocking tone. And I haven't had anything interesting to say. I'm 108 years old. I've run out of interesting things to say. You four, get out of here too. Especially the young one. You are the reason my head hurts. Sacred Mother, interrupted Akim. We need your blessings for safe travels into the Wildlands. You don't need my protection from your enemies, answered Sacred Mother, as she pointed to Gamden with a bony finger. Your enemies will need protection from him. From behind the chair came a tall woman who scooped up the Sacred Mother in her arms like a rag doll. In a flurry of turquoise robes, the sisters left the room, and the party stood dumbfounded. Breaking the silence, Sonasret said, I guess that we should see ourselves out then. They all looked at each other and turned to leave. They gathered up the horses and were ready to make their way out of the city when one of the sisters came running across the courtyard to them. Sacred Mother wants you to know that she is feeling better now and that she will pray for your safe passage through the wildlands. A look of relief came over Akim's face as he heard the news. Also, Master Gamden, Sacred Mother wants you to come back and see her when you return from Azurda. With a stunned look on his face, Gamden said, How did she know that we were going to Azurda? Remember what I told you, said Mankari. She is a seer. She read your thoughts. No one can hide their thoughts from the Sacred Mother when she wants the truth. The sister bowed and wished them safe travels, then turned and ran up the stairs into the convent. I don't understand why all this is happening now, said Gamden. Everything is changing so fast. First Kefu is dead, and then Menkari said that he had come to him in a dream and talked about miraculous events. Now the Sacred Mother. I just don't understand. Menkari took Gamden's hand, motioned for him to get on one knee so he could look him in the eye, and said, Sometimes life changes fast, and it's difficult to make sense of it all. You've got to go forward and see what's going to happen, good or bad. I'll be honest, said Gamden. I'm scared out of my wits. But you're right. You have to go on, good or bad. Hey, no need to worry, interrupted Sunisret, as he got down on one knee beside them. You got us to watch your back. He gave Gamden a punch on the shoulder. Rubbing his shoulder, Gamden said with a smile, Thanks, you big bastard. The party mounted their steeds and made their way out of the convent. The mood was somber as they slowly traversed the crowded streets. Sunisret, as usual, complained that they had never stopped at any taverns when he was thirsty or hungry. Everyone reminded him that he was always thirsty. After a couple of wrong turns, they found the proper route through the city until the main gate stood before them. In the distance, rolling hills stretched out before them, covered in a dense forest. We have at least a month's hard travel there and back, said Akim. Do we have everything and everyone? Gamden checked his saddlebag, found Kepri sleeping soundly, and gave a thumbs up. Wait, blurted out Sunisret. We need more wine. Akim reached into his shoulder bag and pulled out an apple. Here, he said, and tossed him the apple. Chew on this. Keep your mouth busy. Sunisret caught it and took a big bite. Delicious, he said through a mouthful. Let's get going, said Gamden through a laugh, and he led the way. The main road was busy, and they had to travel off to the side of it. 3 rickety covered wagons passed them, with 2 men each on the front bench seat. Only a few seconds later, 1 man from each wagon jumped down and ran to the back of the wagons. Tearing away the tarps revealed large kegs filled with explosives. Fuses were lit, whips cracked, and the horses charged the main gate. Screams erupted from the innocent people jumping out of the way of the wagons. As the party turned to see what was happening, horns blasted from the guard towers, warning of the impending danger. Orders were shouted, and thick ropes holding the counterweights for the main gate were cut, dropping it down with an ear-shattering clang. The wagons kept on going at full speed, the horses frothing at the mouth with exertion. With no time for the guards to react, the wagons piled into the main gates. A split second later, the explosives detonated, deafening the party and spooking the horses. Sunisret was fast and grabbed the reins of all 3 horses, stopping them from bolting. To their left and right, armed men came charging out of the forest, anticipating the main gate being blown to pieces. Guards in the gate towers rained down arrows on the attacking force. Menkari shouted over the clamor and the ringing into their ears. What have we gotten ourselves into? Akin shouted back. The Cyclops mercenaries are attacking again. Let's get going so we don't get caught up in this. He took his horse's reins from Sunisret, spurred his horse, and set off for the forest. As the rest of the party followed, Gamden looked back, and when he saw the convent in the distance, he remembered the words of the Sacred Mother. You will not need protection from your enemies. Your enemies will need protection from him. So ends the Odyssey to Dionysodoros. Now begins Dragon's Blood. Beware Brontes. Continue the journey to Azurda with Gamden and his traveling mates through the Eastern Wildlands. Look for episode 16, Dragon's Blood. Beware Brontes, on YouTube.